Hello, everyone. Welcome to Move More, Worry Less. I'm your host, Paige Vesta, the founder and designer at 13 Fit Apparel. On today's episode, I have Alicia Brunton, who is the founder and creator of Delia Organics, which is a skincare company. Today's conversation is all about clean skincare routines, and we also get into candid conversation about entrepreneurship and flourishing under pressure. This conversation was super fun, so I hope you enjoy. We're here, we're doing it, we're recording.
We're gonna do
pressure. All right, Alicia, we're diving right into the episode. Let's talk about who you are. Introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, what you do, where you live, and then we'll kind of backtrack into your story leading up to now.
Perfect. So my name's Alicia. I'm the creator and founder of Delia Organics Skincare. I am living in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I'm originally from Ontario. And yeah, I love the journey that I'm on, and I can't say enough about it, but there has been some struggles up and down, but that's like anything when you're an entrepreneur. So I'm excited to talk with you, Paige, and share my story.
I'm so excited to have you here today. Our audience obviously wasn't in our first phone call when we met, but you have just such a positive energy and a beautiful story. So I'm really excited to share that. I think the best place to start would be, let's talk about your brand a little bit. What is Delia Organics? What do you offer? I mean, the whole story. Let's just go for it.
Okay, so Delia Organics is skin, hair, body brand that I created for the sole purpose of women and men to feel confident in the skin that they were blessed with. We as women, we grow up and we feel like we have to wear makeup all the time to accentuate features. And don't get me wrong, that's an amazing opportunity. I mean, I'm wearing red lipstick today, so but it makes me feel good. But you also have to feel good in the basis of your foundation. So if you have healthy, glowing skin and you feel good, your confidence level skyrockets. And that was the whole reason why I built the brand. Just basically give yourself some love and some care without compromising who you really are and changing that.
That's awesome. And I feel like there's so many people in the world who can relate to that. I mean, for a very long time, I hid my face behind makeup because I hated my face essentially. And I still wear makeup, but not on such a extreme anymore. And I think it's totally a confidence thing. So I really appreciate that. How long have you been in business? And I'd love to hear the story on how you decided to get into business.
So originally, when I was 19 years old, I had the idea that I wanted to build a skincare brand. Didn't know when, I didn't know how. It was just an idea in a notebook that I had. And when I when I moved, I was 26. And I didn't start Delia until I was 28. And I was working for a doctor who did Botox, medical aesthetics. And I basically decided in that moment, after a meeting with him, where I wanted to sell his skincare line. And he told me that I wasn't good enough. And that was my moment where I was like, okay, I'm done. See you later. Here's my 2 weeks. And I just quit. And it was a really good full-time job. And from there, I started Delia. So I put all my savings into it, started with nothing, basically bootstrapped it myself. And actually, I designed all my labels on Microsoft Word.
Love that.
And went out, honestly, I took these pieces of paper with the labels on them and I took them over to, label makers to see what they can do for me and see if they can get the color right and things. And it was a challenge, but I did it. And now we're going to my 7th year right now with it. And I mean, it hasn't been easy. but it's been worth it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
What a badass way to start a company, first of all. Just somebody trying to tell you that you can't, and then you're like, guess what? I can. That's
Yeah,
where you're wrong.
it's true.
Yeah. So, how did you decide what direction you wanted to go in with your skincare? Because you're saying that your full-time job, you're working for somebody who did like Botox and stuff. I'm not sure what the background is there and what kind of products they use, but what made you decide to go in the direction of like all natural, organic? And I'd love to talk a little bit about your ingredients and your product line a little bit.
Yeah. So originally, I like clean eating. I like being healthy. That's very important to me. I know, yes, sometimes we fall off the bandwagon, and we may not be as healthy as we could be. But essentially, I wanted to build a brand that was good for everybody. The ingredients were easy to read. There was no complications in terms of complicated ingredients to the point where people really had no idea what it was. Also, I wanted to keep it affordable, because the thing is, we are living in an ever-changing world. I think you and I both know these last couple of years. I mean, everybody knows the last couple of years. I know we're ready to done talking about it, but at the same time, when you have things that are affordable but that actually work, you're more apt to stick with them, opposed to, say, a product that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, right? Where it's like you're so used to that product, you're so used to having that product in your routine. But financially, like, it's, unless you have the ability to keep up with your routine financially, you're going to be stuck where it's like you're used to seeing what your skin looks like using, $100, $200 product, and now you can't use it anymore. So you're kind of stuck. But I also wanted it to be a brand that anyone can use, from the age of 18 to 65, 70, right? It's along that line of basically everyday skincare that you can use, where, yeah, you get up in the morning, it's busy lifestyle, slather it on. I know that's not the proper way, the professional way to say it, but like, in general, you put your skincare on in the morning. You don't want to spend an hour on your routine. You've got things to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good way for anybody with a busy lifestyle to take care of themselves, not compromise their time in their day.
Yeah. And that's great, because I think when we think of health and wellness, we're usually thinking about the insides of our body. So our diet and our workout routines.
Yeah.
So I love that that's such a big part of your brand is a wellness aspect, because I mean, if I remember, I don't know who said it or where I read it, but at some point in my life, the words have come into my head that, like, if you wouldn't eat it, you like shouldn't put it on your skin because your body is absorbing it. And when I heard that, I was like, oh crap, like that's super valid. And I mean, there's plenty of things that I put on my skin that are probably not fantastic. But honestly, also because of what you're saying, like price point. If in an ideal world, I would love to use everything organic and natural and be the healthiest from the inside out and do everything right. But it's hard when you're on a budget.
Yep.
To be able to do all
100%.
that. So I totally love that. Yeah.
The crazy part about it is, if we think about growing up, right? I'm sure our parents, we ate things that were necessarily not really the safest things to eat.
Oh, I lost you. I lost you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I got you back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So where did I just feel like I was on a ramble there?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. About like growing up and eating.
Oh yeah. So, right. Like, if we think about our parents and what we ate growing up, right? Where now the kids nowadays, I think the kids now have more of a healthier lifestyle than we did growing up, because I mean, we just ate what was, put in front of us. they didn't read labels. They weren't conscious about, those kind of things, unless you grew up in like a vegetarian or vegan home, where I in fact did not. But also when you're feeding a family of 7, you're just you're gonna make what you can make and make sure the kids are fed. So
yeah. So I know you have a pretty wide product line. What are some of you, I mean, you don't have to sit here and list all, like, what did you say? You have like 32 products. You don't have to sit here and like list them, but I would love to get an idea of what kind of products you have. And then I would really like to get into your ingredients and how you choose them.
Yeah. So a few of the products that I have. So we've got, I started out with 8 products when I built the brand, and they're my OG products, and I still have them today, except one, but the one that I don't have anymore, I made it better. So it's still an OG, I think. But the original was the vitamin C line, and it was the cleanser with vitamin C in it, a serum with vitamin C, a lotion with vitamin C. There's an eye gel with vitamin C, which vitamin C is very, very, very important. No matter how old you are, we ingest it in vitamin form or supplement form, but we also don't consciously think of how important a vitamin C in a skincare product is. And what happens when you step outside, in sense, when the sun's shining, even if the sun isn't shining, it's still there. You're giving your skin the opportunity to grow free radicals, which basically they basically have something to do with pigmentation issues. Your cells, they don't perform the way that they should internally, but it's things that you can't see as a regular human being. We don't see them. However, over time, if you're not protecting your skin, over time, as you age, you will start to see age spots. You will start to see hyperpigmentation in some areas. A good example of this is, I know somebody who used to drive around with a sunroof all the time, and didn't wear sunscreen. And over time I noticed, but again, I noticed these things because it's my trained eye. I noticed these kind of things, which isn't bad. However, I started to notice brown pigmentation starting on their forehead. And I never said anything, but I was like, that's actually pretty interesting, because I never thought of it in a way where, and I should have, but I never thought about it in the way where it's like, okay, if you're that close to, to having the sun shine down on your head from a sunroof, they make sun visors for your car when you're driving this way, but they don't do anything except the shield. Well, you're kind of Murphy's Law, right? Like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So that's another thing, is that hyperpigmentation, elderly people. I know my grandmother, over the time, she had age spots and hyperpigmentation. At the same time, they were a generation where they slathered oil on themselves to tan. And it's a different generation. It's a different way to teach people and to educate people. And some people think skincare is fluff, but at the same time, it's how you look at it. You take somebody who doesn't moisturize any at all, right? And you put somebody who does moisturize. Like, there is a big difference. And I'm not talking like it makes you look older the more you're not hydrating.
What kind of ingredients do you use to stay organic and natural?
So I use everything from carrier oils that are fruit or plant-based. They also, shea butter is a big ingredient. Shea butter is very natural as well as coconut oil. So that's another ingredient. Coconut oil is black in the skincare industry too, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Especially now, you've got TikTok, you have people who have no education, talking about products and like bad ingredients and good ingredients, and it takes away from the scientific aspect of it. However, with coconut oil, it's actually really good depending on the form. for your skin in terms of hydrating, in terms of being antibacterial. And the coconut oil that I use, it's a triglyceride. So it's actually a lighter version. The molecule is a lot smaller, so it doesn't sit on the top of your skin. And then the way that I've designed those products is they're more of a pre-cleanse. They're more, you use that before you actually use your cleanser. So essentially, if you're using it properly, there would be there wouldn't be no problem. So I think that's another missing piece in the industry, is actually getting people to understand everybody's not the same. Everybody's not going to react the same. However, you still give it a chance. If you're interested, give it a chance and try to do it for what's best for you, not what 3 other people had said works best for them. And that's, I think, the challenging part about this industry. And especially for me, is trying to get people to understand, hey, just because it worked for 2 other people, it may not work for you, but you have to be open-minded. It's like anything, really. It's like food. Like if we're going to compare skincare to food, I mean, they're 2 totally different aspects, but you're going to give food a chance, to try it before you say you don't like it. Right. So if you're just going to go off of somebody else saying, oh, I don't like it because I had this reaction, and you're scared to use it because they had a reaction, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to react the same way. So it's kind of, that's I think one of the challenging parts about the industry, is trying to get people to understand, like, just because Harry and Sally from TikTok didn't like it doesn't mean that you won't like it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And speaking from being on the consumer side of that, I mean, it's hard because there's so many brands, like in general, and it's like, how do you know who to trust and what products are good? And of course, everything works different for everybody because everybody's different. Like you said, with food, like a diet could work for me, or like quote unquote diet, way of eating, but it might not work for somebody else, or, whatever the case is. So it makes sense that skincare would be the same because we all have different skin. But I think the part that's hard for the consumer, coming from my perspective, is that, how do I know what's going to work for me? And I can understand people basing it on other people's opinions, because if that's the only information that you have, where you don't seek out like education, I mean, that's like the best thing to go off of. It's like, oh, well, my friend likes it, so it must be good. You know what I mean? I'm kind of rambling, but I think that, I mean, I think it's tough on both sides. And it's like, how do we bridge that gap?
I think for the most part, so when I started, I basically, customer service is huge for me. And I would rather the customer be happy than not. So I will do everything in my power to make sure that, they get the products that they need. So generally what I do, people email me and ask me like, hey, like, can you give me a product recommendation? And I think the expert in me, like the esthetician in me, is like, I can help you. Okay, tell me what your skin's like. Tell me what you're using. Like, I go into, even though I'm not practicing right now, I still practice in my emails. I still practice with product recommendations. So I still keep that very close because it's fun for me. Like, I love learning about skin and, what little things are going wrong with people. Like, sometimes like customers, they look at that as a big challenge, in a sense where it's like a negative challenge for them, say acne or something, where I'm like, okay, it's just finding a solution and healing it. And that to me is fun. It's always been fun. And I would rather people who are not sure of what to use to email and connect with me, where I can actually have a one-on-one with them and discuss their skin, rather than reading reviews, buying something that's not even remotely close to what they need, wasting their money, and not being happy. And that I think is where, for me, where I've bridged the gap is, I'm here. Like, I'm here. I may not be physically in front of you analyzing, but having a conversation and understanding, it really, really helps, for sure.
Yeah. And I love that you said that you like to find a solution to heal. Um, because just like anything else in Western culture, I feel like there's a lot of band-aids out there, or
Yeah.
like covering up with makeup or whatever the case is. Um, and just kind of looping that all back to what you said in the beginning about wellness, like your brand is very much a wellness brand.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. You, when we first spoke, you were telling me a story about when you first got into subscription boxes.
Oh,
And
yes.
I would love to rehash that story. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the question.
Okay. So when I first started Delia, I had the idea I wanted to be in spas because spas have been my life. They need products. Um, I actually designed treatments to go with the products. So that was my branch. So if I look at Delia like a tree, and Delia is on the at the root. And as Delia has grown, different branches have formed. So my first branch was spas and retailers. And over time, it wasn't as busy as I thought it would be. And of course, when you go into it, you think, oh, I'm going to be so successful within 6 months. And you build up this big, huge goal and you've mind mapped it all out and everything. And 2 years go by and you're like, okay, when's it going to happen? However, I had fallen into the hospital with a severe back injury, and I was struggling to figure out what I was going to do next. And at the time, my neurosurgeon told me I was not allowed to go back to the job that I was working to help supplement my income because it involved lifting, which then I can't do. So he also asked me if I'm able to do Delia full time. And I didn't know if I could. So I just told him yes. I didn't say no. I said yes right off the bat. And after he left, I'm like, how am I going to do this? What is going to happen? Because I wasn't in a position. I really wasn't. To be honest, I was not in a position to take it on full time. I wasn't making enough to support, my bills. However, when I was laying in that hospital bed, not sure what was going to happen after I got out, I had basically went on Google, and the whole beauty subscription box thing was still kind of new. It wasn't as big as it is now. And I started to had my cell phone, and I just started to email a bunch of beauty subscription boxes and to see if, they wanted to buy something from me. I had no idea how I was going to do it. All I knew is I had a packaging supplier. I had the means for labels and of course my product. It would just require me more time to make my batches. And I had one come back to me, and they're still partnered with me today. And they said, yeah, we'll put an order in. And that day that I got that order, I had let them know, I'm laying in a hospital bed right now. However, like when I'm out of the hospital, that's when I can start. And they were like so blown away that I would even be doing this in pain. But I couldn't quit. I couldn't let myself down. I couldn't let Delia down. So in a way, Delia saved me, because that first order that I got basically helped me with any anxiety that I had after, any post-traumatic stress that I had after my back injury. And that, yeah, that was 5 years ago. And here we are. So, and I have been doing it full time for the last 5 years.
That is so incredible. And even though I've heard the story before, I literally, and this is going to sound like I'm being dramatic, but I'm really not, like that made my eyes water, because I feel like there's a lot of people who can probably relate to that feeling of like, oh shit, what am I going to do? And there's two directions you can go. You can quit and like do something else that's like easy, or you can turn on and figure that shit out. And that's what you did. And I really admire that. And it's really inspiring. Like, I feel like recently, and my audience knows a lot of stuff, but like I've been struggling a lot with like where I'm supposed to go with business and what to do, because we've been kind of like at a standstill, and it's like really scary and hard, which I know you know. And so hearing you say that both times you've told that story, it puts a little fire under my ass. Like I can figure this out and I can make it work. So I really appreciate that story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the best part about it is because I also too, like you just said, you're not sure, you're not sure the direction and things. And last month I was kind of in that puddle where I was like, I don't know, I think I'm having a midlife crisis. Like I don't know if I want to do Delia full time anymore. And it took a moment, like I was feeling like I was failing in that moment, and then I was giving up, but it was legitimate where it was like, I don't know what to do, because again, it's a standstill. It's a very awkward time, trying to rebuild after 2 years, trying to keep the relationships that you already have with, partners and things. And a lot of those partners have gone. A lot of them didn't survive. So it kind of, like you said, light a fire under your ass. Yeah. Like I actually had to take a step back, and I had to reflect, and I went quiet for a while, and I have been quiet for a little while too, because my mind, it's like there's little people in my mind running around without any direction right now. And I know that sounds silly, but that's the only way that I can explain it. But I realized I did a market this weekend, a local market. And that was the first time I've done that since 2018 or 2019. And let me tell you, it kind of picked things back up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And being out in the community and talking to people and just being myself, I think that's what I miss. And I think the main part of why I was feeling like I wanted to, take a step back from Delia is because I miss working with people. I miss talking with people. Like I do this by myself. Mm-hmm. Like I wear many, many hats. And I think what people don't understand, unless you are an entrepreneur mindset, where there's going to be days where it's more lonely than not. And if we can actually make it through those moments, then it's going to be okay. But I get it. Like when you're not around people all the time and you've got so many things on the go, and people who don't understand that, for us, when we're in an entrepreneur, we're on all the time, 24/7, and we can't stop. I guess where I'm going with this, because I feel like I'm rambling now, is that trying to get people to understand where you are, how you're growing. It's a little harder for them to see the background. It's easy for them to see finished product. It's easy for them to see organization, and it's easy for them to see or think, oh, she's got her own business, like she's great, she's good. No, like they don't see those empty bottles that need to be filled. They don't see those empty bottles and empty packaged products that need a label. They don't see the empty boxes that are being built to package up orders to send them. They don't see the worst part about it. They just see the finished product, which is great. But when you fully appreciate that finished product of what actually went into it, I think it's a little bit for an entrepreneur, it's a little bit more than just, oh, I got my product today kind of thing, right?
Right.
The blood, sweat, and tears. Sorry, I felt like I was rambling.
Oh my gosh, you're totally fine. We're just having a conversation. You can ramble as much as you want. Well, and I feel like I had a couple things I wanted to say, and now I don't remember all of them. So I'm probably going to ramble a little bit too. So here we go. I think that there's something to be said for what you're saying, but also for just like people in general. Like, I feel like it's kind of like a metaphor for just like, see, I'm rambling. I'm not even like making sense, but let me get into what I'm saying. And then hopefully it does make sense. Like the finished product and like looking like a business owner looks fabulous and beautiful and great. And like you're saying, behind the scenes, it's not always that way. People aren't seeing me hysterical over a box of hoodies that came in wrong or, you know, whatever. But I think that whole concept applied to everybody. Like you just never know what's going on behind the scenes with anything, with anybody. And
no, but it's like that is 100%. That is 100% true, because like you're right. Like we don't know. I mean, I've had panic attacks. Same with you. You know, labels come wrong, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like you have an order to put together, and you're on a time crunch, and you know, it's the little things that, even though to some people they're the big things, but even though to some people it seems like a small thing, no, like I can't put any products out that don't have a label. Are you kidding me? Right? Like that's stressful. Mm-hmm. And the time that it takes for them to be delivered, like even more stressful. You don't know if it's going to get lost in transit.
Right.
You know, the trust in a lot of things lately has kind of like gone down the past 2 years in terms of shipping carriers and things. So yeah, there's more bad days than good.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, but it's people who understand, that get it.
Yeah.
That they get your struggle and they get that, yeah, no, like there's more crying and there's more stress, there's more yelling into my pillow, you know, things like that than happiness most of the time.
Yeah.
But I also don't let it fester. I have my moments, I let them go, and then I'm okay. But if I don't allow myself the opportunity to let it out and to vent about it, or to scream into my pillow or punch them, you know, not actually like a living thing. No, don't punch a living thing. We don't punch living things. Mm-mm. But but a punching bag, or, you know, like go to the gym. That's something that I've been doing a lot more lately, is back at the gym, and, you know, take your aggression out on an inanimate object.
Yeah.
If, you know, not someone else. I don't know why we went down that road, but
no, this is Alicia. This is absolutely amazing. This is what we're here for.
Not punching people.
So the theme of the podcast is don't take your aggression out on other living things. That's our topic today. That's all of everything we've talked about leading up to here. Like this is, you know, I wanted to say something else. I think two things. One, I totally understand the feeling of like more bad days than good. And I had a friend of mine ask me before, she's like, don't you ever just want to like clock in and then clock out? And I'm saying, hey to Kayla right now, if she's listening, because I know she listens to the podcast. And I was like, no. And it's just so interesting because it's like we choose this crazy emotional life, but like you said, you went to this market, right? And that kind of like inspired you and reinvigorated you. And it's like those moments when you get to connect with your community or your clientele and like really talk about your product and why you love it and learn more about the people who are interested in your product. Those are the moments that you're like, that's why I do this.
Yeah.
Because it's more than like a product. It's like that connection with people and being able to help them with whatever it is. And you are definitely more in the wellness space than I am. I make apparel. And even though it's more superficial, I do hope that, you know, the connections that we make and the people who wear our apparel like feel that empowerment and that connection with us. So yeah, those like markets or events or those connections that you make, those are like the things that keep us going and make us not necessarily want to clock in and out of a 9 to 5. And that being said, there is no judgment towards 9 to 5
No,
jobs. I often admire people who have a 9 to 5 and their stability and being able to find happiness and being happy more times than not. But we choose this life where we're like more often unhappy. So it's like, but yeah, I feel that. And I was going to say something else, but of course it escaped me already. So there's that.
I think when it comes to 9 to 5, like for me, if worst comes to worst, I promised myself, and I said, if worst comes to worst, if I need to, if say if this doesn't exist anymore, I have no problem. I have no problem going back to a 9 to 5. No problem whatsoever. No shame in it. That's just the way, that's life, right? Like I'm okay with that. And I think if you have that mindset too in the back of your mind, it also pushes you to do better with what you're doing currently, because yes, it's there. It's there. And okay, at any point in time, I can go back to a 9 to 5 if I don't want this anymore. Fine. But yeah, like you said, it's the challenge. And I think that's for me, that I need challenge. I need to feel so uncomfortable in order for me to be successful. And I need to fail more than I'm succeeding in order for me to feel successful. And I know that sounds super backwards, but it's the truth. Yep. Because those days of failure, that's my lesson. I'm learning. I'm not learning when I win. I learn when I lose. And I would rather lose all the time to gain that lesson, to learn more, to be better for next time, than to constantly be winning and be bored.
Right.
Like, and I think that's entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And I say this because, and you probably resonate with this too, Paige, is you have to be okay with failure. You have to be okay with that things won't be okay. You have to be on all the time, and you have to be okay with rejection and people saying no to you. It took me a very long time, way before I built Delia, to be okay with rejection. I used to take no's personally, even though I had no reason to take them personally. It just wasn't the right, in jobs, for like this whole thing is about jobs, right? Where it's like, yeah, I got said, told no all the time, but also I don't think I would be where I am today if I would have had some of those jobs, and who knows where I would be, really. So yeah. I truly believe in life's path. I truly believe that things are put into your path for a reason, for a purpose. And if they are still in your path, there's still a purpose, something you're not there yet. You haven't hit that aha moment where it's like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to learn all the time and fail. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And
I love failing.
Yeah. And I think that goes for, more than just entrepreneurs too, just like anybody who cares about being better. And so like I said before, I've been recently feel like I'm like just kind of like floating, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing and where's business going. And I've picked up a part-time job to supplement, and to be able to continue pushing the brand. But I've been feeling just kind of like, I don't know. Literally what you said before is exactly how I feel. You said it sounded silly, but I was like, but I know exactly what you mean, where you said there's a bunch of people running around in your head with no direction. That's how I've been feeling. And it's been making me feel pretty sad, isn't the right word. But I've been like down.
You've been feeling defeated.
Yeah. And it's been hard. And actually yesterday I was listening to another podcast, and this isn't the first time I've heard this saying, but he was basically talking about how, life throws all these challenges at you. This guy was actually talking about how his house burned down and he lost everything, but it was actually really good for him. And he was like, it's so easy to live in like a victim mentality and a victim mindset. And I'm guilty of being like that recently. I've been like, woe is me. Yeah. This is hard. How can I make this work? And then he said, it's not about like, why is this happening to me? It's why is this happening for me? And I've heard that before, but for whatever reason, when I heard it yesterday, I was like, oh shit. Like he's right. Like I'm going through this right now to be a better person, to be a better entrepreneur, to push through and like make a better product and make a better brand and make a better everything. And so in the last like 24 hours, I've been really trying to alter my mindset into that because, for example, I was up for a business grant last month. I asked all of our followers to vote for us. We had like such incredible support and I'm so, so grateful for it. And today I found out we did not win. And as soon as I saw that, I felt extraordinarily deflated. And I texted my boyfriend and I was like, we didn't win. And then I was like, fuck that voice in my head that's like sad. And I was like, but it's okay. Getting the money would have been an easy fix. And now I just have to work harder to figure it out. And I mean, easier said than done. It's like, I'm fighting to say these words, you know what I mean? Like it's been hard in these last 24 hours, but it's true. Like the reason that I even started the brand in the first place was because of difficulties. And just like, and you took your brand on full time and are like kicking ass after getting like, you were in the hospital and you're like laying in a hospital bed and you're like, well, I'm going to do this full time. And you're sitting in your hospital bed, emailing other companies. Like, I think that just goes to show like, that's exactly the point, right? Like things are hard, but they're working for you to help you be better. Because if everything's just easy, then are you going to be better for it?
No. And I think the way that I look at it as, nobody's going to save you. No one, ever. And your parents won't save you. Your siblings won't save you. You've got to save yourself. And you're the only one who can do that for yourself. You have to be willing to, when you have to be willing to get to that point to understand that, okay, no one's saving me. Nobody owes me anything. About what do I owe myself? What is true for me? And what will make me happy? And this is something that I'm a huge people pleaser. I love making other people happy. I think that's just ingrained in my DNA. That's just who I am. And it makes me happy to make others happy. However, sometimes I compromise my happiness for other people's. And it hasn't been until lately that I actually had a moment where it was after I turned 35 where I'm like, screw it. I'm doing things for myself now. And if I want to take time where I'm not answering people back, or I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm not going to follow a diet. I'm not going to follow a fad or a trend. I'm going to do what makes me happy. And since doing that, like, I feel so much better, even though I still, I'm still there for people who are there for me, but I've also like, what would the word be? I've recalculated my friendships. Not recalculate. That's a terrible word to use. It's so bad. Who says that? Recalculated my friendships. It's not a robot. But I've paid attention to who's been there for me and who's not. And when I say when they're not there for me, it's the mindset of, if I'm ever in trouble, and I'm not talking about like locked out of my house. Like, I'm talking about got into a car accident and I need help. Like, who would be there? Who would drop what they were doing to be there? Because I know myself, if a friend had called me up and said, I've been in a car accident, I don't care what I was doing, I'd be on my way there in a heartbeat. So it's kind of one of those things for me. See, now I'm rambling and going off, but now I forget what I was talking. See, this is what happens when we're talking, and
we're just going. Well, you were saying how you started like living for yourself, essentially.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I think the most important part is, it really does come down to do what makes you happy, and not what will make other people happy. And I've always wanted to please other people my whole life. And that's part of acceptance, and growing, and, childhood, traumas and things like that, where, you just want to please everybody because you don't want animosity. However, it's when you're older, it doesn't work like that. And people take you for granted, and people take advantage of you. And then you have a very hard time differentiating who's real and who's not. Because the treatment you receive from people taking you for granted is the same exact treatment you get from people who love you. And you don't know, you're blinded of what's real and what's not. So you kind of have to do what's right for you. Yeah. And I'm always I'm always for change. It's people in jobs. It's, if you're not happy, change. Mm-hmm. Never stop looking for an opportunity. Like, if you want a 9 to 5, if that's your life, that's great. But never stop looking for what you deserve, right? And don't settle just because it's a job. Like, find something you're passionate about, and if you can get paid to do that for 9 to 5 or 8 hours of a day, you'll be happier. 100%.
I want to pull this full circle. And number one, I think, just to say, support small businesses, because we're all out here trying to, do the thing and deliver something that we think is beneficial to our community. But that's not why we're here today. We've talked about skincare, entrepreneurship, flourishing under pressure. And I want to bring it all back to your skincare. And because I think that this whole kind of theme is about self-betterment, and skincare is part of that. And I'm here for it. So, and I want to give something to our listeners to take away from this podcast that's like something tangible they can do right now. So do you have like maybe, 3 easy tips for skincare that is accessible to majority of people?
I think as long as you are cleansing your skin morning and night, moisturizing, and have a very good vitamin C serum, Delia Organics. I had to. Shameless plug.
Yeah, of
but
course.
I think if you basically, rewind a little bit.
Okay.
It all starts internally. So if you are eating healthy, hydrating yourself enough, and have a good routine, just a simple routine, a cleanser, moisturizer, serum, and you're exfoliating 2 times a week, that's a start. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it truly goes that what's happening inside your body will show up on your face. Mm-hmm. 100%. So if you are developing acne, if you're developing skin issues, pay attention to what you're eating. And I say that because I've lived it. I had full face acne till I was 25. It was due to excessive amounts of milk. It was due to sugar. It's little things like that. But after you take things out and start introducing them slowly, you start to learn. And I think that's the biggest thing, is learn yourself.
Yeah.
Learn about your body. Figure out what works and what doesn't. Don't listen, don't go off of what other people are experiencing with their body. Focus on you.
Yeah.
And find what works for you.
I do sorry, go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say that's what I would recommend to start for anybody who's not sure. Start with internal to external. 100%.
I love that. I do have one more question about cleansers, because I find them to be a challenge, and maybe other people do as well. Well, my first question is, does your line offer cleansers? And number two, when looking for a cleanser, I know it's probably different for everybody because everyone's skin's different, but what are some kind of ground rules of maybe things that you should avoid or things that you should look for?
I think it's not so much. It's basically, it's very individual, right?
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of trial and error with cleansers over the years, and I like gel cleansers, but I also like gel cleansers for the point of they don't strip your skin too much, but there's also cream cleansers. So with Delia, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. See, there's so many. 4. So I have 2 gel cleansers.
Mm-hmm.
Cleansing melt, which is it's a solid coconut oil melt that once you put on your skin, it comes off as a solid, then you warm it with your body and it comes as an oil, so you just remove your makeup that way. Then I also have a cleansing oil, so it's like an actual oil, so it's a liquid. Again, it's very, very individual. A cleanser is very individual when it comes to your skin structure and type and condition. That's where you should be paying more attention. You want things that are going to balance your skin. You're not necessarily going to use, say, a gel cleanser on extremely dry skin. And I'm saying that is because it's just going to make you drier. You want a cream cleanser if you're really, really, really dry. That way, the cream cleanser acts as a little bit more of a heavier emollient type of cleanser for you. Okay. So again, it depends. Seasons change. Your skin's going to change in the season. I know my skin changes in the summer than it does in the winter. I mean, we are in Canada, so it's a little bit different up here. But I have to use a heavier cleanser in the wintertime, a cream cleanser. So it's really, honestly, very individual.
Yeah, that's valid. I kind of figured that would be the answer, but it was worth a shot. So basically, we're working from the inside out, checking out our diet first, making sure we hydrate, washing our face in the morning and at night, exfoliating twice a week, moisturizing after you wash.
Yeah.
Were those all the things that you said? And then looking for a cleanser is very individualized, and everyone can email you and purchase Delia products.
Please do support
and get their skincare routine buttoned up. Amazing. Well, Alicia, thank you so much for joining today. This has been so much fun.
Okay, good. Thank you. No, I'm happy that we were able to do this and you were able to host this podcast. So I hope we can get together again soon and have another conversation.
Yeah, me too. Oh, and lastly, before we wrap up, where can our listeners find you, follow you, shop your product?
So you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Delia Organics, DELIA Organics, and then website, deliaorganics.com. So
easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Website's there, very straightforward website, nothing complicated. Again, email me if you have questions. And I'm going to send over a discount code to Paige so she can add it as well. So anybody who follows Paige will be able to use her discount code. So
amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Move More, Worry Less. If you love this episode, Please subscribe, share, rate, or review us to help us grow our mission. If you don't already, follow us on social at 13fit Apparel and visit our website at www.13fitapparel.com. Thanks for listening.